Hi everyone, welcome to this video. For the new year, I'm going to be talking a lot more about some of my theories related to Jungian cognitive type and the other systems as they pertain. But in the meantime, I definitely want to get on every day and talk a little bit more candidly about some of the things I'm noticing in different cognitive types, and especially with the differences between FE and FI. So for those of you who don't know, that my name is Crystal Dwan. You can find me on Megan Lavota's channel on her podcast Synchronic Saturdays. And I talk about Jungian cognitive type and the theory of the 8 functions. So yeah, thanks for joining. For today, I actually wanted to highlight a specific topic that's been dear to my heart for quite some time, and it's about how I, as an NFP, get along with NFJs. So I'm actually going to make 2 videos. So the one today is going to be about, from the NFJ perspective, how you can help your NFP friends. And then the one tomorrow will be NFPs and how they can help their NFJ friends. And some of this is honestly really applicable to just FE and FI clashing in general, but I more so am honing in on these 2 types in their clashes because I have more experience with having multiple NFJ friends. I actually currently have like about 10 NFJs in my life right now, and a lot of people are like, how do you stand that? Because a lot of NFPs can feel very invalidated by the NFJ temperament. Oh, and for those who are new, when I say like NFP, NFJ, I'm saying INFP, ENFP, or ENFJ, INFJ, mostly because they share the same functional similarities. So anyways, if you want to skip to the end because your SE is getting tired of like listening to my NE ramble, there will be a timestamp down below for the point at which I actually give actionable scripted advice. So yeah, anyways, I want to philosophize that whenever I'm having an issue, it's actually I'm thinking incorrectly. I never really need my feelings validated because I always know they're valid because I can hold space for them like no one else can. My issue is that I think incorrectly that no one else can understand or handle me when I'm deep in the spiral. You as an NFJ have to understand that we have extroverted thinking. So just as you feel like you have no choice but to give in to other people's emotions because you have extroverted feeling, the NFP over here in our functional stack, we have extroverted thinking, and it functions actually very similarly in some ways to your FE. So TE is very about subjective or about giving into subjective thoughts. So if someone else thinks I'm stupid or like am doing something incorrectly, it's gonna like shatter me way more than if someone thinks I'm being mean or like inconsiderate. So if you've ever like called your friend who is an FI user that and they got mad at you instead of like apologizing right away, they were probably thinking that your way of thinking is correct and theirs isn't, but they weren't actually matching your emotion. And that is the difference there. So I know it can like look kind of like, oh, but like I'm an NFP and I like to feel like I give into people's feelings all the time, but it's actually quite different. So the nature of extroverted thinking is that when someone else is thinking something, I feel like I have to change my way of thinking. So over time, the accumulation of those things is what gives me bad FI. When I say bad, I mean like negative FI. Like I'm experiencing negative emotion. For example, I'll be like, oh, like, I feel like because growing up, my mom told me that I would never be worth anything if I didn't like clean better. I still believe that she's right, and I'm afraid that she's right. And that creates like feeling like if I don't do this, then I'm unworthy. It's like this very like ultimatum binary thing that my inner critic does. And someone with TI would be like, okay, well, that's what you think, but there are all these like reasons why you, mom, specifically think that because of your experiences or because of all your whatever. I don't have access to that by default. To this day, I'm still deeply triggered when my mom invalidates my experience because she, as an FETI user who seems to have a lot of pent-up FI about me and about the world, just is really operating from, you should be like this, you should do this. And my disagreement, but also my deep desire to like gain her validation is really biting me in the ass 24/7. What set me free was actually an NFJ, not an NFJ, sorry, many NFJs. And they all explained and modeled the way they would think differently about the situation. So I've really learned that NFJs are super fucking handy if you're having a debacle and like they can then tell you how they would think differently and give you an alternative. Because if I think that the only way of thinking is my way of thinking, then I'm going to have a miserable time as a TE user. So like, really, it comes down to this, NFJs. You have to ask your friend, what are you thinking? Not what are you feeling. You can ask, what are you feeling? But like, don't try to validate how they're feeling, because that will just make them be like, no duh, like whatever. Really, you have to get in and be willing to give them an alternative way of thinking if they ask for it. So it starts with like breaking down someone's core philosophy, especially as an NFP. You know how NFJs, you hate when people intellectualize your emotions? They want that. We as NFPs want you to intellectualize our emotions, because intellectualizing is the only thing that will get us out of it. I swear to God, because I'm an NFP who spent many, many years resenting and being angry about FE, and the only way I ever got out of it was talking about the principles we were operating on. Your gift as an NFJ is that no matter what happens to you, you can still feel bad about it, but your principles don't shake. Your way of like treating people will not budge. You might feel tempted to change it, but quite frankly, like, it's never going to completely like throw you off. We don't have that. Like, so many FI users deal with like thinking they have to change for someone to accept them, and then they'll double down on how they feel and feel like, oh, I can't like it be what you want, so I'll just have to super be something different or something. If you've ever heard someone say, don't try to change me when you're arguing with an NFJ, that is because we associate any TI criticism as a rhetorical question. Like, why did you do that? We hear as, why did you do that? Because you're so stupid for doing that. We don't hear it as, oh, like, let's interact and like, let's share how we approach different situations. The key thing is you have to validate how the NFP is experiencing life. You have to think, what facts about them are they going through that might be incorrect, but that is to them very real. And I have to go in and see the world through that lens. And because you don't use TE-NFJ, like, you don't like probably accumulate a lot of like incorrect facts. Like, for example, I go, okay, because I was called dramatic by my mom a couple times, I now associate everything I do as I am a dramatic person and I can never change. And I also have the fact of people don't like dramatic people. If someone with TI would be like, well, my experience is lots of people like dramatic people because they need the people to inspire them. But that's very hard for me to access when I'm in my FI. So what I'm imploring for you to do, NFJ, is be willing to realize that you operate on a set of givens that the NFP does not. And NFP should also realize this too, and I'll go over that in the next video. But at the end of the day, I think like as an NFJ, your power is that your ideology and your approach is really what we need. We don't need you to say, oh, like, I'm going to hold space for your emotions, because we do that for ourselves already. What we need from you, and you have to like think if you can do this, is, can you hold space for our thoughts? Can you hold space for us just thinking all these incorrect things and you being like, I don't agree? You have to be like, you can't say I don't agree, because we'll like get mad potentially, but you have to be like thinking, I don't agree, but let's try to strategically figure out how this person can come to their own conclusion. So it really comes down to like mirroring, like, oh, like, what are the facts of your life that have made you think that you don't deserve any friends? And then they'll break it down, and they'll be like, have you ever considered the perspective that even people, and make it general, don't make it about the person, be like, okay, so you think that people that are dramatic don't deserve friends, and you've heard that before from your mom, but have you considered that maybe your mom is only one person and that she's wrong and that a lot of people think very differently? And then you can even be like, I, for example, don't think you're too dramatic to be my friend, Crystal. And it's like, oh, really? It's like, shit, I have to now consider someone else who isn't my mom thinks about life differently, and I have to consider that maybe my mom is the one that's wrong about this thing, because I'm almost giving away too much power. Like, I'm being like, her word is gospel, because extrovert thinking kind of makes things gospel sometimes. That's why we're always like looking to authorities as sources, and we put a lot of weight on that as opposed to coming to our own conclusion. So you have to realize that your NFP friend is miserable because they have a TE problem. It's not a, oh, like, they need to just reach out and seek connection. I only reach out and seek connection if I need my worldview expanded or changed. At the end of the day, like, a lot of people, the times I'm talking to my NFJ friends, it's like they have to be really smart NFJs. Like, not saying like NFJs are like all smart or not smart or something. But what I'm trying to say is that I will go to them with these topics ready to philosophize and ready to add value to me. I'm not someone who's just going to share about how my day is going. I'm going to be like, what am I deeply thinking about that I need help with? And NFJs that like musing about that stuff too are my cup of tea. So if you've gotten this far in the video, congratulations. I mean, yeah, so if you're here, I'm going to say this is a script that you can use for your NFP friend. You can be like, like, what are you thinking about? Because I would love to hear why you think in a certain way that is making you feel this way. And I know that it can come off like robotic, but I think that like really trying to keep the focus on like, these facts are interesting. This is very interesting that you feel this way. They can change how they feel, but you have to be willing to go to the root of it, which is that incorrect extroverted thinking. You have to be like, what facts have made you think that you're unworthy of love? Like, because if they're saying that stuff and sounds so like definitive, it's because it feels definitive. But just as how your FE emotions sometimes cover what your FI is really feeling, TE can cover what we are really thinking. Because deep down beneath all of that, we have the ability to be like, to think differently and be like, I'm going to operate differently despite the circumstances. We can stop feeling like we're identifying with our circumstances if we can get them validated first. We can be like, oh, like if I'd grown up with a mother always saying a certain thing to me, I would also feel not worthy. If an NFJ said that to me, I'd be like, okay, cool. Now I will be open to whatever your perspective is, because you have to first figure out what facts they are reacting to. So you're asking, what are you thinking about for you, not for them. What you do next is going to shape the conversation. If you can validate the thing that they're reacting to, the facts of the world that they feel like are so solid that they can't get around, they'll trust you. But to be honest, as an NFJ, a lot of us are very triggered by your approach to life, and we wish we had as much emotional space to hold, but we don't realize it's because you have TI, a very strong conviction about how to live life that we really need access to. So you have to be like, my power here is in my thoughts, not in my emotions. This person does not need help with their emotions. What I'm actually seeing is creating the emotion is their incorrect thought. So if you can think of it this way, NFJ, I swear to fucking God, you will get better over time at realizing the nature of how FI and TE works. So yeah, you can sound off in the comments, especially if you're an NFJ. Let me know what you think of this theory. This is something as an NFP that I've tested over and over again on not just myself, but all my other NFP friends too. I always go, okay, like, let's talk about this philosophically, and let's like take this to a different perspective. And no matter what the reaction is, it's always about what is your approach to life and what is your mindset. This is very much a thing in coaching, and this is like also why like I am, not to toot my own horn, doing quite well for myself as a coach, in the sense that all my clients are feeling set free because I always look at the facts of what they're reacting to. That is what creates FI that's negative, and is what creates FI that's positive. So if you're like an NFJ and also just even want to go into like therapy or any of those other modalities, you have to learn to hold space for the questions themselves, because that's ultimately what your NFP friend wants. They want to be able to question their reality in a way that feels grounding. Often they are feeling scared and sad because they're fucking confused. And it is your job to be the person who isn't confused and model what is possible. So I'm going to make more videos about this because I don't know if I quite hit the nail on the head. Bad TI, I can't tell. But I really want to continue to like have this conversation, because a lot of NFJs and NFPs have both agreed with me about this idea, but I'm very open to, you know, like kind of testing it and changing it. So yeah, don't take my word for it, because I'm not trying to establish myself as someone who is speaking the gospel, saying that for the TE users. But I really do think that this is a great starting point. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.